this defendant had a right to this expert testimony. So nowadays there is greater receptivity to the idea of having an eyewitness expert.
But Beth, let me switch now from one aspect of statistical decision theory, that is how accurately can we distinguish signals from noise, to the other aspect, which is what kind of weight, what kind of costs, in this case, what kind of moral costs do we pin to errors of each kind. Now, you and I have something in common. We're both well-mannered, reasonable, nice people. Somehow continually manage to keep getting into controversies. And in your case, from the political right, I once heard one of your colleagues say to me, I said to Beth, if you discredit eyewitness testimony, what are prosecutors supposed to do? How are they supposed to put bad guys behind bars? And then from the left, one of your colleagues in the law school, alluding to your expert testimony in the sexual assault trial of a famous movie producer, offered the following complex legal argument. Harvey Weinstein? How could you? How do you deal with these criticisms? Would you charitably credit these professors with just a different valuation of the moral costs of false convictions versus false acquittals? And if so, how would you defend your own valuation?
First of all, I was pretty shocked when I returned from testifying in New York in the defense of an unpopular defendant who was accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment, that a law professor would say to me, how could you? How could you? I'm done with you, she said. I mean, a law professor, if anyone, should appreciate that we live in a world where people are innocent till proven guilty, that even unpopular people deserve a defense. I was kind of shocked about this. And I don't know, how do I deal with the criticism? Well, usually by occasionally trying to immerse myself in the periodic gratitude that gets expressed from people who share my values and appreciate moving forward in a hostile climate.
I actually have a different valuation than Elizabeth. I think there's a difference between being a lawyer on the one hand and being a judge on the other. As a judge, I had to make exactly the valuation you were making, which is to look critically at the evidence in front of me. As a lawyer, before I became a judge, I actually made different decisions. There were cases that I knew deserved a defense, but I had other people I'd rather defend. And so I made choices about who I wanted to use my talents, at whose behest I would use my talents. And that was a different kinds of decision. And to some degree, I think experts are in that position as well. There are a lot of people that are deserving of your talents, and the question is, how do you deploy your talents? So it's slightly different.
That is a personal decision that we all have to make. But then if you consider the entire system, let's say there's a defendant that just everyone despises, just absolutely unlovable, and no attorney feels the personal calling to defend that person. What do we do given that in our system of justice, that person must have legal representation? Do we draft some lawyers to defend defendants that are hated, despised, but deserve a fair trial for all that?
We have a system with state and federal public defenders. So we have decided that even the most horrible, the most unpopular, the most icky get a defense that's paid for. But I mean, assuming you qualify for this kind of service.
During the trial of Harvey Weinstein, Elizabeth Loftus testified about the nature of memory, on which she has done eye-opening research. When psychologists say that human memory has a lot of noise,